Welcome to the All Sports Podcast, looking to bring you the best and most entertaining podcast about sports there is around. We hope you respect our opinions as we look to respect yours. This podcast is for entertainment and analytical purposes only and made to have fun. Leave us your thoughts of our topics and comments in the comment section below. We hope you enjoy the podcast, like the videos, and subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Rivalry Week edition of the podcast, where we'll recap Rivalry Week, we'll look ahead to conference championships, and man, what a rivalry week we had. Clemson dominates South Carolina, Ohio State dominates Michigan, Auburn upset Alabama. We'll talk about all of these coming soon. My name's Jonah, with my colleague Gentry. Special guest, Mr. Luke. Happy Thanksgiving. How you doing, brother?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to see what you got to say about this week of Rivalry Week. Well, yes, thank you. Let's get into this show of Rivalry Week. Gentry, what were your thoughts about Rivalry Week? What game stood out to you the most, and what impacted the college football playoff?
So I think the biggest game was Auburn and Alabama, and Michigan and Ohio State, but you can kind of debate between those two.
The two biggest games, yes, I believe so as well. Luke, what were your thoughts Rivalry Week, and which game stood out to you the biggest?
Yeah, now that's going to cost them because they're not going to have their best receiver in the first half. Way to go, buddy.
George Pickens, of course, getting ejected for fighting in that game and throwing punches. That'll be a tough loss for the first half of the SEC Championship. Again, we'll talk about it later on. I thought Rivalry Week was an entertaining one. Things went down as they should have went down. The two games that stuck out to me the most was the Wisconsin-Minnesota game and the Auburn-Alabama game. With Minnesota out, that puts Baylor in and Wisconsin in. Wisconsin can have a chance to beat Ohio State. I don't think they'll get in, but it just kind of mixes things up. Also, the Alabama-Auburn game. Alabama moves out. That moves Utah forward. It'll move Oklahoma and Baylor forward as well. Those are the three teams that have the likely shot to get in with the LSU and Georgia game coming up in the SEC Championship. Let's move on to our first game. Number 3 Clemson taking on South Carolina in a 38-3 dominating victory. Trevor Lawrence went 26 of 36 passing, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns. Travis Etienne 15 carries and 51 yards total, 2 touchdowns for Clemson's 27th victory.
Man, we got 51 yards against South Carolina. Okay. Yeah, it's not good.
What are we? Gentry, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good, but I think the same thing. You can't play that freaking schedule like that. I don't understand why Dabo's whining. It's his fault for freaking agreeing to that soft schedule anyway. You just gotta have at least one game on your schedule that people can point to, which I guess they had one in Texas A&M, but now they have like 5 losses, so that's not even a good win anymore. You gotta book your schedule more tough, even though it's made years in advance, so you can't really tell. But still, you can tell which conference is better.
Clemson's a pretty fair team. I like them. Their offense is pretty good with Justin Ross at the wideout, and they have the other guy. I forgot his name. Forgive me. Trevor Lawrence is looking pretty good after the very first half of the year. He's finally picked up in the second half of his sophomore season. Travis Etienne, not many yards, but he got the 2 touchdowns. It's a dominating team, though. 27 consecutive wins. They won the national title last year. They picked up victories over Alabama. right now, they do have a weak conference in the Athletic Coastal Conference, but and they'll easily get into the playoffs with a victory over Virginia.
I just thought of that. That's going to be the key to beating them, make them run the ball. I mean, that's my opinion. Just got to get the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands. Because all the defenses except for LSU can start to run pretty good.
Yeah, Travis Etienne is a pretty stud player indeed. He knows how to run the ball. He can find his routes. Clemson 27th victory over South Carolina. Go ahead. I think so as well, but you know, you can never tell with college football. Anything can happen. So, but again, Clemson 27 consecutive victories. That has got to be somewhere near a record or something like that. I don't know. But let's move on to Atlanta, Georgia. The clean old-fashioned hate between the 4th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets with a dominating victory of 52-7. Even Jake Fromm went 14 of 29, 254 yards, and a career high of 4 touchdowns in a single game. DeAndre Swift, however, 10 carries, 73 yards, and 2 fumbles. He sat out the second half. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what's wrong with him, but there's no telling.
Kirby,
we might see him in the SEC championship. Who knows?
Kirby said he had a shoulder contusion, so I don't know. All I know is if Georgia freaking starts that game like that against LSU, they're gonna lose. Because the thing about Jake Fromm that I'm starting to dislike him now is I always knew he wasn't couldn't throw the ball deep. That wasn't his specialty. But he was always like a dead eye with accuracy, and now his accuracy is like not there. But that's just me, because I think he's regressed between this year and last year. Yeah, like the last 4 weeks, he's not completed over 50% of his passes. That's pretty, to be blunt, that's pretty garbage. I'm just being honest. But
he did what he could do. He did what he could do to give them a chance to win that football game.
yeah, but I think it's probably, if any Georgia fans watch this, probably going to disagree with me, but if they don't have Swift, that'd probably be better for them just because their offense won't be as predictable. You put Swift in the backfield, they pretty much thinking you're either going to throw it to him out the backfield or you're going to run the ball at the middle. But if you have like James Cook or Brian in the backfield, you probably think, you don't know what to think. They might pass, they might run a screen, they might run like a little dink and dunk. Just kind of makes their offense more unreadable to me.
And Georgia's got to find the different pages in the playbook facing LSU. LSU's defense not the greatest, but they can make a presence felt. More on this game. There was the close first half, 17-7. Not really what people expected. Yeah, the score was 52-7. Georgia outscored them by 35 in the second half, but they end the field goal. Georgia Tech goes down after getting the fumble recovery. Or no, they got the onside. No, what was it? I think it was a fumble recovery.
Yeah,
that's right, because Blaylock he missed the punt, and then what's the other boy's name? Tyler Simmons. Is that it?
Yeah, they got an onside kick and a fumble.
Yeah, the fumble after the punt. LSU Georgia Tech gets in field goal range, misses the field goal. Georgia marches down the field, and Hot Rod misses the field goal. So it was just kind of a wacky game. But Georgia comes out on top, 52-7. And the main highlight of this game, George Pickens just
grabs him by the face mask and throws him up against the wall.
Just blatantly letting out his emotions.
But that's what really
undisciplined.
Because I think he would have been the X factor. Because you don't have. This is, I don't know. It's going to be a telltale sign to me. on what Kirby does with Demetrius Robinson, because I think he's the fastest wide receiver in college football. He don't get no touches, but I think he's a very good receiver. They just don't go to him for some reason. I don't know why. They go to Tyler Simmons, who can't catch, and I mean, he's not that consistent.
Yeah, Georgia's got to do something different with Swift being injured and George Pickens out for the first half. NCAA rules. Who knows if Kirby will keep him out the whole time to make a point to him. There's no telling.
Yeah, he'll
But
probably
Georgia,
do that, which is dumb. I mean, I understand the discipline part, but he already did it for the first half of Georgia Tech, and he still did something. So he's young, though. He's just going to make mistakes and act like that in the heat of the moment.
yeah, just can't do that to your team. You're a freshman. You got to learn. You just did it at the wrong time. Georgia cleans Georgia Tech's plate 52-7. Moving on. Number 9 Baylor just dominates Kansas with a 61-6 victory. Nothing much to talk about here. Just Baylor now has a chance to redeem their one loss of the season against Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. And if the numbers fall correctly with a Utah loss, a Georgia loss, and they beat Oklahoma, I think Baylor slips in at number 4.
Yeah, but I don't see all that happening for them anyway. Maybe like one thing would happen, but I don't see freaking. Oh no, I don't see. Utah might win. I don't know. So like the Baylor needs to go their way. I don't really think they deserve it, to be honest with you.
Well, Baylor's played hard all season. They finished out the season 11-1 with their one loss after blowing a 25-point lead to Oklahoma. Baylor could be in the top 5, could be 5 or 6 in the conversation right now if they were 12-0. Probably 5 with going over Utah behind the top 4 as they are right now. Baylor is in the discussion. It's kind of tough for them. Who knows? We'll see then. In the Battle of the Rumble in the Rockies, number 6 Utah faces Colorado and Mel Tucker's team with a dominating victory of 45-14. Had a punt return. It was a fairly easy victory. They move up to number 5 with the Alabama loss. They have a day with the Pac-12 championship on the line against Oregon in Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. And realistically, they have the best shot at moving into number 4 in the college football playoffs.
They probably do, but shoot. Yeah, I don't know. No, we already talked about it, but it's just me being a fan. I don't really see Georgia winning that game. I know people would hate on me for that because I'm supposed to be a big fan, but it's just sometimes you gotta call it like you see it. I don't see that defense is great, but I mean, not necessarily Jake Fromm. You could just point to a lot of things on the offense that just don't go right. I don't feel like they run enough runs. James Coley is inconsistent. Jake Fromm doubts himself too much. And they just held Texas A&M to 7 points, so they're playing with fire because they got moved down a spot, and the reason why was because their defense was trash against Ole Miss. So that's why they got moved down, so they got ignited by that because the committee said that the defense was subpar. So yeah.
Yep. Number 6 Utah takes care of Colorado 45-14. Moving on to the Belgium rivalry between the number 7th ranked Oklahoma Sooners and the 21st ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. 34-16 victory for Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts went 13 of 16 passing, 163 yards with 1 touchdown. He had 16 carries for 61 yards and 1 touchdown. Kennedy Brooks had 22 carries and 160 yards total for 1 touchdown. Oklahoma takes care of business against the rival. They have a Big 12 championship against Baylor. It's a must-win, and honestly, they have just as a right to be in the playoffs as much as Utah with a conference championship victory. And really, that's the only way they can get in with the Utah loss, unless the committee sees fit that Oklahoma makes it in over Utah.
Man, I can't really comment on Can't really comment on what if Utah deserves it or not because I haven't watched them all year. But I'd rather see Oklahoma. That's just me. Just because I think Oklahoma's more entertaining. Yeah, especially when you think about how, well, yeah, he hadn't transferred yet, so they could have thought about it. The fact that Tua is like walking glass, I mean, I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. I mean, he's an elite talent, but yeah, the big thing too is I wonder what would have happened if that pass would have never been thrown. I don't think he would have ever got the starting job. Because people forget in that game that he threw an interception to DeAndre Baker before he threw that touchdown, so the game wasn't looking too hot for him.
That was the SEC championship against Georgia.
Yeah. The only thing I think Tua's a pretty dang good quarterback, but the thing that looks bad on his part is when he goes against like Clemson and Georgia, his stats like go down really bad. Not just a little bit. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to come back to Alabama next year because he can't risk injury again, but that's going to hurt his draft stock pretty freaking bad. Yeah, I'd be able to see him come back another year though, but he might not. I don't know. You never know.
I think everybody wants. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that one pass changed his whole life. Just because that second 26, third, it shouldn't have happened. Because Dominic Sanders blew the coverage, and he was supposed to be an elite free safety at Georgia who broke Kirby Smart's record. And Tyreek McGee. I don't know why that man's in the game. He freaking sucks.
I'm pretty sure everybody would like to see Jake Fromm and Tua return for their final season. Maybe a rematch in the SEC championship of 2020.
Oh, yeah, I'm all for Jake Fromm return. You just got to fire James Colbert. I'm not with it.
The way it might be subject for game of the year if it turns out the way it could. But Jalen Hurts is with Oklahoma. It's his senior season. He has made a Heisman candidacy season for himself. He is looking to get Oklahoma back into the playoffs for the third consecutive year. And so far, they finished the season 11-1 with a victory in the Belgium rivalry against Oklahoma State, 34-16. Moving on to the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe between number 12th ranked Wisconsin Badgers, who visited number 8 ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers. Wisconsin goes into Minnesota and takes care of business. They pick up the honestly somewhat shocking victory, 38-17. Quarterback Jack Cohn throws the ball 15 of 22 for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor gets 18 carries and 76 yards for 2 touchdowns. And on the other side, Minnesota, Tanner Morgan goes 20 of 37 for 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. With this, Minnesota is now officially out of the playoffs with 2 losses. Wisconsin has somewhat of a shot. Who knows? I mean, anything can happen in college football. But the thing is now Wisconsin plays Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship.
Didn't know. Geez, forgive me, I don't know his name. Didn't Minnesota's head coach get like a 7-year extension this year?
Probably, I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, PJ Fleck goes into Minnesota first season, goes 10-2. He turned programs around. He was at Western Michigan program who rode the line 7.566. Took them to a freaking 13-0 season. They play Wisconsin in the Cotton Bowl. Put up a dang good fight with now Tennessee Titan wide receiver, former All-American Corey Davis, and he can turn a program around at any time. Western Michigan would lose that game in the Cotton Bowl, but PJ Fleck, a solid coach. He's just a dang good one. However, this time around, Minnesota will finish the season 10-2 and doesn't have a shot at the conference championship with Wisconsin moving in. Moving on to number 2 LSU versus Texas A&M. After last year, Texas A&M took LSU to 7 overtimes and won from a huge game 74-72. Joe Burrow becomes the all-time leading SEC passer in yards in history after this game with 22 of 32 passing, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets 18 carries, 87 yards, and a touchdown. LSU will face Georgia in the SEC Championship in Atlanta in the big matchup with the college football playoff spot on the line. What are thoughts on LSU?
I just think that in all fairness, that's one of the best offenses I've seen in a long time. But this is where this fandom comes in. I think when they see Georgia, they're not gonna know. They'll still get their points. They'll probably still get around 30, but they're not gonna put up nowhere near 40 or 50 against that Georgia defense. They might not even put up 30. Big thing to me. And their defense gets too much criticism because it's got the talent on it. It's just gotta get. They just gotta glue together and get that chemistry going. Because they got Delpit. He's a beast, but I think he hurt his ankle like a month ago. I don't know if he's been playing or not because I don't really watch the full games. I just watch like a half or so. But I don't think he's been playing. I think he hurt his ACL. That's a big factor if he plays or not.
Who is this?
Delpit.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Free safety.
All-American Grant Delpit. Honestly, I thought the defense would be kind of better than they have been this year. They shown up in certain spots. Gave up 42 to 44, something like that, Alabama.
And they gave up like 440 yards to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yep. It stopped Arkansas, but it wasn't necessarily fully there. But they do hold Texas A&M to 7 this time around. LSU is my go ahead.
Yeah, he's about to break the completion percentage record too, so that scares me.
Joe Burrow, a Heisman candidate, probably the Heisman favorite himself. LSU is my pick to win it all. I mean, this team, the offense is just, I don't see who can stop this offense other than a Georgia defense, a Clemson defense, or Ohio State defense. Obviously, those defenses each have their own little breakthroughs somewhere, but Joe Burrow, he slings the ball as my partner said, that he is leading in the passing percentage, the passing touchdown. They also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and man, that little guy can run the ball. He kind of can help them change up their offense and give them different looks, and LSU can just do whatever they want on offense. And if their defense can turn into what they potentially can be, then it's just, I don't know who can stop this team.
They just watch out for one of the best duos, J.R.E. and Richard LeCount, though. I like Richard LeCount a lot, but I think J.R.E. is gonna get an interception in the SEC championship game. Hopefully.
We'll talk about the SEC championship more Thursday, but let's go ahead and, since we have our special guest, let's go ahead and get his thoughts on the SEC championship between LSU and Georgia. What you think? What's got to happen? Who's got to do what? What are your thoughts? Luke. While you're here, we'll talk about the SEC championship more Thursday. But let's go ahead. Let's see what do you think about the LSU Georgia matchup? How does Georgia have to play? Who has to step up? How's LSU got to play? Who's got to step up? What's got to happen?
Well, I think LSU, they just got to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, no one else is stepping over them. I mean, and Georgia, I mean, yeah, they're like ranked, they're not as good as they were 2 years ago, but they're still putting out a solid effort. I personally think in the long run, LSU's going to get it. Just because I just don't feel like Jake Fromm's going to be able to handle LSU defense. I mean, LSU defense ain't that strong, but I don't believe that Jake's going to be able to handle it, honestly. And with Georgia losing their star receiver from the bye, I don't think they're going to do all that great. Maybe up for like the first half.
Yeah, NCAA rules he's out for the first half of the SEC championship for fighting.
I just don't know like Georgia's going to be able to handle with the day and not having to go through that first half, because I feel like LSU's going to come straight out the gate banging on them, and I just don't feel like Georgia's defense is going to be able to hold back that LSU offense, and they're definitely not going to be able to hold them.
Georgia just got to keep it close in the first half, because Georgia's more of a second half team. But my big thing is just two big things to me. I'm not going to talk about it as much because we can talk about this on another day. But they just got to, short pass coverage got to be better, and Jake Fromm's accuracy, he just got to get back to what he did his freshman and sophomore year. If he does that, then they got a very good chance.
Again, we'll talk about this matchup more on Thursday. LSU got to keep doing their thing. Georgia's got to step up big and find their offense, and that defense has got to keep doing what it's doing. LSU picks up the victory over A&M, completes the perfect regular season 12-0 with a 50-7 victory over the Aggies. Moving on to the game between number 1 Ohio State visits Ann Arbor, the Big House, number 14 ranked Michigan. Michigan comes out with the touchdown. First drive, 7 plays, 75 yards. And looking to give a battle to Ohio State, but Justin Fields just turns up, goes 14 of 25 passing, 302 yards with 4 touchdowns, including one after on a drive he got banged up with his knee. Comes back in the first play, rolls out to the left, turns his hips, fires a rocket 30 yards, and just makes a miraculous play for the touchdown. J.K. Dobbins showed up. He had an amazing day with his with his dunk touchdown. He had 31 carries, 211 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They faced Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship in a rematch in which they dominated Wisconsin earlier in the year. Dobbins helps with a monster game and carries the Buckeyes to a 5th straight victory over the Michigan-led Harbaugh. Why can't Harbaugh just beat Ohio State?
I think it's just I'd say it's like, so I'd say it's like 60% coaching and 40% talent. 'Cause I don't think he's got the talent to match up with that in his defense. I just don't think he does. Shea Patterson's not nowhere close. I haven't really heard anybody elite on Michigan this year, so that just kind of lets you know. Like, they used to have Jabril Peppers and they used to have all kind of defensive people, but now they don't really have those big names. And if you don't have big names and you don't have elite coaching, you just ain't going. Maybe it's the coaching staff. I don't know. They just gotta figure something out, because they destroyed Notre Dame. I mean, that was a big game. It just might be the fact that it's Ohio State and they just got a fear in their heart they can't get over.
Ohio State always dominating Michigan.
They've won the last 8 matchups.
Michigan comes close some years this year. They were close and just let it fall away. What's your thoughts on Ohio State? Justin Fields came from Georgia, and now he's at Ohio State in his sophomore season and just leading the charge.
Yeah, in the last couple matchups, Clemson's destroyed Ohio State. I think it's like the last 3 matchups.
Things not looking favorable for Ohio State playoff-wise, but this team, led by Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins. Also, Chase Young kept quiet. He had 2 quarterback hurries, and that was really it. No tackles, no sacks, no tackles for losses. Chase Young is a key factor in that Ohio State defense that have been pretty solid this year.
I don't think J.K. Well, I don't want to say this, but I am kind of like a hot take. But I don't think he's that good when he gets matched up against those elite defense. I think he's just gonna get boxed in. Justin Fields, I know he's got the talent. Get that knee time to heal by the time the playoff starts, and he'll be good.
Yeah, Justin Fields again banged up with the knee. I honestly like Ohio State. Still, LSU is my favorite to win it all. I'd like to see LSU and Ohio State in the end to see how that would fare, but Justin Fields banged up. Chase Young kept quiet in Ann Arbor. Ohio State in the game picks up the victory in the Big House over number 14th ranked Michigan, 56-27. And finally, in the biggest game, in the second highest scoring game in this rivalry history, the most points allowed under Nick Saban, in the Iron Bowl, number 15th ranked Auburn picks up the, I won't say shocking, but just crazy victory over the 5th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, 48-45, after a missed field goal with 2 minutes left in regulation. And a bad illegal substitution.
It was the most points scored in the first half of an Iron Bowl in history. I think it was like 30-31 at the end of the first half.
I think it was like 31-27. Because I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I seen that they're like 0 for 3 or something. If they would have had two of that, they would have won that game. It's just you can't throw 2 pick sixes. That's 14 points swinging the other way. They don't even have to work for it.
Bo Nix going 15 of 30 passing, 173 yards and 1 touchdown, 6 carries for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. Mac Jones had a decent day, but again, like you said, the 2 pick sixes, 26 of 39 passing, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. 2 of those being the pick sixes. Najee Harris had a big workload, 27 carries for 146 yards and 1 touchdown. The X factor for Alabama was Jalen Waddle. That man had 4 touchdowns on the evening. He had 3 receiving touchdowns over 100 yards. He had a kickoff return after Auburn just got a pick six to make the game 17-17. The first quarter it was 7-3, I think, 10-7 or something like that. It was 7-3 Auburn's favor.
I think.
And then the defense just left after that, and it ended in being the second highest Iron Bowl in history. Also, there's two pick sixes for Auburn, as he said. Malzahn is now 19-0 when his defense scores a touchdown in a game. That just stood out to me, that fact right there. He was 18-0, and then with this victory, it makes him 19-0 when a Malzahn defense scores a touchdown in a game. Controversy for Alabama. Saban believed to be 1 second left at the end of the first half, or actually there should have been no time left on the clock, because he said himself, he said that a play takes 3 seconds, and the fact that Auburn had the time to snap and get the ball down and kick a field goal just kind
that was kind of like
infuriated
a weird
him
thing, because you couldn't see if his knee went down or not because it was a dog pile. So they just made that call. That's the only way you can beat Nick Saban is if you can just shred his defense. If his defense is stout, you're not beating him. That's why Georgia lost the last 2 years. That defense stood up like a brick wall. Well, it's mostly injury plays because they lost a top 15 pick, and I'm not sure of his first name, but I know his last name is Moses. That middle linebacker, he tore his ACL in practice before the season started. That would have been a game changer for Alabama. I think he would have been the best linebacker in the nation.
Yep. Also, as well, in this game, Alabama actually forces Auburn after missing the field goal to a 4th down, but an illegal substitution. Alabama could not get their players going, had 12 men on the field, and that is how the Iron Bowl ends, with an illegal substitution call when Bo Nix takes 2 knees and Gus Malzahn picks up the victory over Nick Saban. Very, very controversial. I just scramble from Alabama.
I don't think that was fair because they moved the punter over to wide receiver, so they should have given him time to sub. But that's just me.
Being our special guest, being an Alabama fan, Luke, what are your thoughts on Alabama's 10-2 season? Losses to Auburn and LSU, no longer in the playoffs, going on to either a Sugar Bowl, an Orange Bowl, something to that matter. What are your thoughts on Alabama right now after losing last year to Clemson and now just not even in the playoffs?
let Auburn get the win when they should have got it.
Yeah, that's like the most penalties under Nick Saban. That defense is what cost them the game. Everybody wants to talk about Mac Jones, two interceptions, but if the defense would have even allowed one last touchdown, Alabama would have still came out with a win.
Yeah, just what are your thoughts on if Tua doesn't stay and Mac Jones is now your quarterback or Tua's younger brother? What the thing is, you have Ruggs, God, what's the other boy? Jerry Jeudy leaving, and the third, Devontae Smith. You have all those guys leaving for the NFL draft. You have potentially Mac Jones being your next year quarterback or Tua's younger brother. What do you see in the future of Alabama? Yep. How do you?
Well, I mean, that's his personal decision, but I think he should come back too because he got injured and you don't want him to like go to the NFL and then not be ready and they just force him and he'd be like on a trash Dolphins team and then just get hurt again and end his career. Like, I don't know. And his draft stock's gonna go down because he got hurt again. So he probably need to come back, to be honest. Then if he comes back, I think Mac Jones will transfer. Yeah, and I wouldn't want to go to the Bengals, but might have to watch out. The Falcons might try to draft him.
Yeah. What do you think Alabama's got to do to get back under their feet, to get back in the playoffs, to kind of become the Alabama that we know Alabama to be under Nick Saban? Alabama takes the hard L to Auburn in the Iron Bowl. Auburn takes control in the series 61-68 with a 48-45 victory over the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah,
Not
so now
much left.
Gus's job gets extended for another year.
Not much left to talk about. Let's just recap how the season went. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the college football season this year, Gentry?
I mean, I think it was pretty good, but as far as my side goes and the team I pull for, if you told me that Georgia was going to lose to South Carolina, I'd probably call you stupid. But hey, you'll never know. You can't win a game if you throw 3 interceptions to the same cornerback. Can't do that. I didn't expect LSU to be this good. I expected Texas A&M to be better, but they always come up short, in my opinion. Last time they actually did like they were supposed to, they had Johnny Football. And I expected Alabama to be more stout, but at the same time they can't be like that when they keep on getting injuries all over their football team, because they lost Tua and they lost Moses. And every year, I don't know how Nick Saban does it, because most coaches can't do it, but he don't have chemistry with his coaching staff, because they all get hired by like Colorado and FAU and all these schools as head coaches, and then he has to go out and get more to fill up the coaching staff that he has no familiarity with. But I think he did pretty solid for what he was doing. But this is gonna be a career-defining game for Kirby Smart. Just know that. But if he loses, I dang sure don't want him to go nowhere. I want him to stay at Georgia for years.
College football season not over. The regular season is. Now it's just time for the big dogs to step up. Time for teams to make plays. College football playoffs. Luke, what are your thoughts? What's your Final Four after everything ends?
And even if they get down by a lot, they just got to keep their head in it, because that's what people do wrong in any sport. They just think because they're down 20 or however much, there's not a chance. There's always a chance.
You can never give up, especially in college football. Well, Rivalry week was an entertaining, interesting one. Alabama no longer in the playoffs. Georgia, LSU matching up probably at 1-4. LSU will move up. Ohio State will probably go down. Clemson locks up number 3, and they have an ACC championship ahead of them against the Virginia Cavaliers. Our next podcast will be over Conference Championship Week. We will talk about the Pac-12. We will talk about the Big 12. We'll go into minor details of the Group of 5 conferences. We will talk about Clemson, Ohio State, and we will get all over Georgia, LSU more. Luke, since you're here, let's get some predictions. You got Utah and Oregon in the Pac-12 Championship at Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Who do you got between the Utes and the Ducks?
Yeah, I haven't watched any of their games neither, so I don't feel bad.
All right. You have ninth-ranked Baylor. They're looking to seek that win-loss revenge against Oklahoma. They were up 25. They could have had the perfect regular season. They get a shot at them at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. 12 o'clock, national TV, ABC, against the Oklahoma Sooners. You got number 9 Baylor, number 7 Oklahoma. What do you got? Moving on to the Athletic American Conference, you have number 19 Cincinnati, who just lost to Memphis. Number 18 Memphis. Cincinnati had a heck of a season. They finished 10-2. I think same as well with Memphis. Memphis will host this game in the Liberty Bowl and Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee. Two Group of 5 schools looking to get into that New Year's Six Bowl as the top group, as the highest ranked Group of 5 team. Well, what's your take? You never know. Cincinnati looking for revenge. Memphis looking to hold strong. Moving on to the ACC Championship, you have the Virginia Cavaliers and the number 3 ranked Clemson Tigers. And the Big Ten Championship in Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis, Indiana, on Fox, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You have the 12th ranked Wisconsin Badgers and Ohio State. Who do you have? Finally, the big matchup of the year. Probably going to be number 1 LSU against number 4 Georgia. You got Tigers and Dogs. What's going to happen in that game? All right, so you'll go with LSU over Georgia in the SEC Championship. There you have predictions from our special guest, Luke. Thank you for joining us in this edition of the All Sports Podcast. Rivalry week is over. The regular season is over. College football just now getting fun. Conference championship week is coming upon us. College football playoff rankings, the end of the regular season. We will see how they turn out Tuesday at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Gentry, how do you feel? How did this show feel for you?
Felt great. Just had to touch on some of those factors of what Georgia has to do in a later video. I just thought of something now, but just going to say it real quick. I'm not going to really ruin it, but just watch out for the young buck named Nolan Smith.
There you have it, linebacker for Georgia freshman. My name is Jonah. My colleague Gentry, our special guest Luke. We're thankful for having him, and we will get our next podcast either Thursday or Friday covering college football conference championship week. We will cover all of them. Even the group of 5s. We will highlight Georgia LSU as our game to watch. But from then, thank you for watching, or thank you for listening, and we'll see you then.